Hi, I'm Augustine Hayes, and I'm speaking to James Kimberly Hayes, my father, and a veteran and a retiree of the United States Air Force. Can you fill me in on what you did during the Air Force?
Sure. I was an ROTC graduate at the University of Colorado. I graduated in 1980 and came on active duty in the U.S. Air Force in 1980. I was my career spanned 23 years. I retired in 2003. I was an aircrew member on B-52s for much of that career and with a couple of staff tours. My final staff tour being here in the D.C. area. And of course now I'm working as a civilian servant.
When you were in the Air Force, did you go any, when you were active duty, did you go any, were you in any conflicts?
Yeah, when I came on active duty into the B-52 community, and it would have been 1981, I think, before I was finally checked out in the airplane and at a final unit, and that unit was a bomb squadron up in Rapid City, Ellsworth Air Force Base. It was in the Cold War, what turned out to be the last 10 years of the Cold War, 10 or 12 years. So I was pulling nuclear alert, and that was the primary mission of the B-52 unit I was in. So I was in the Cold War, pulling alert with B-52s, and then later in 1991, after the wall had fallen down and things started getting difficult in the Middle East, Desert Shield, Desert Storm took place. So I flew combat missions in Desert Storm. In '98, in '97, I had people from my unit fly in the fight against the Yugoslavs, Serbs, and in '98 we flew in Desert Fox against Saddam, and then I finished my career out in the staff here in the Washington D.C. area when colleagues of mine were finishing the business with Saddam Hussein.
And what were your objectives during the war? Did you understand the mission, and did you agree with it?
So I would say in the Cold War, so I was really in two of them, the Cold War and then the wars that we had going in the Middle East, the operations in the Middle East. So the Cold War, yeah, definitely understood what was going on. It was us versus the Soviet Union. That was very clear, and I had been trained to be on strike missions against the Soviet Union, and I would have carried those out without any issues. The assumption was that if we were carrying those missions out, they would have already struck the United States. So certainly would have been intent on taking the fight to the Soviets. But thank goodness all of that was over, and we never had to do any of that. And then I was in Desert Storm, and at the time I believe that was a good effort on the United States' part, and I still think it was a good effort. I have many colleagues in the civilian community that think it was probably more than we should have gotten into. I don't agree with that. I think that it was fine. It probably didn't turn out the way it should have turned out, but I think it was a good operation. I believed in the mission, Desert Storm mission.
As a bombardier and navigator for a B-52, what was your? Did you what was your favorite part about being one of those in one of those positions?
It's a fun mission. It was a good mission. You were on the pointy end of the United States Air Force. I know I had colleagues that were in fighters. I had colleagues that were in tankers, air refueling aircraft, and in transport aircraft and all. And the B-52 mission, which I was given, it's not one I would have chosen, but I was given. I was over the years glad to be a part of it. It was to be out of the office, out flying, going places, and seeing different parts of the world, even B-52s. Made life pretty interesting. The work was fun, and I fly desk these days as a civil servant, and I still do miss the days able to get out and fly an airplane. Important missions. From the PSYOP, the singular integrated operational plan, the nuclear war plans, very important missions, and to training and getting ready for the conventional missions like Desert Storm. They were always very important, and the B-52s had a inordinate impact on a lot of those. Every time we would show up someplace in the airplanes, whether it was from a typhoon evacuation in Guam, we'd end up in Okinawa because typhoons were coming across Guam. It got a lot of attention when they overflew bases in South Korea, showed our presence in South Korea. It always got the North Koreans' attention, and then when they were operating against the Serbs or in Desert Storm, it always got everybody's attention that the big bombers were involved. That meant that the U.S. government was serious about things. So it was good to be a part of that. It was important work and exciting for a young officer.
What were some of your positive aspects of your job, and what would you say was your favorite thing about flying over those missions, or if you've had any favorite places that you've gone to on tour?
The variety of the missions and the difference in the duty, from being stationed out in Guam in the Pacific to back in the headquarters in the Pentagon, the variety of the duties and the demands that you had to work hard and study hard and pay attention to what was going on, so you did well, performed well. You didn't make too many mistakes, or you didn't make too many mistakes too often. Those were the fun parts and the most challenging parts of the job. It tended to keep you. It kept you sharp because, one, flying an airplane and getting to where you needed to go and completing the mission, and then in the staff, various staff officer jobs. There were a lot of requirements that senior officers tended to depend on you, provide research and background and all. So, and they're a pretty demanding lot. So I was always forced to be sharp and be prepared for whatever I had going, whether it was flying or staff work.
So you mentioned how there were some positives. Were there any negatives that happened, or that you thought?
Well, and I guess I didn't really answer the positive. For instance, in Desert Storm, it's a little intimidating to go off, especially if you've been, as I had been training to fight the nuclear wars, and then to end up in a conventional war where you're actually dropping bombs on somebody. In the nuclear wars, the PSYOP, you were um, hoping you'd never go, and you'd not really expect to go unless there was some catastrophic mistake somewhere. And then in the conventional arena, you ended up actually going. So that was um, that's what stood out in my mind on that first mission over in Desert Storm that I took. That I'm actually doing this for real, and going against our enemies. So, what was your next part of that question?
Well, you answered the negative aspects of it. How has being a veteran in the military, in hindsight, what do you think? What do you think has impacted your perspective after returning to civilian life, and if you've had any regrets about leaving?
No regrets. Certainly, no regrets about leaving. I retired after 23 years, so it was time, and for me to go ahead and retire. So certainly, no regrets. I mean, initially, to miss the camaraderie and all that you have in flying units and in the Air Force was. I certainly missed those kinds of things. But how did my military time help me or work for me as a civilian? I went into the civil service, into the intelligence community, so it actually was quite beneficial for that kind of work. I had a good, strong sense of mission because I was working closely with a lot of people, young and old, many of them young, who've not had any military experience. So my experience brought a sense of mission and a sense of urgency and an understanding that things have deadlines. You need to get them done, get things done, and so I found that all very beneficial in the career that I find myself in right now. I find it. Those are the things that I teach the younger people like you that are joining the civil service and being intel officers and all is that you understand the mission, you do your best to learn your job well, and then so you can execute the mission, and you do it in a timely manner. So all of that has been most helpful for me. Learning about the civilian side of things has been pretty interesting. It's you can't tell somebody necessarily that you got to go do this or that, that they need to go do this or that. It's a little more persuasion and a little more leadership as opposed to direct orders. That's not that much different than as an officer in the Air Force. I mean, you didn't. If you had to, you would. Give somebody an order to have them to go do that, but rarely did you have to do that kind of a thing. So I think I was fairly well prepared for that in the civilian world. But that is one of the differences between the Air Force and the civilian world. You tend to focus on how to persuade and bring the group along. So.
How has your faith influenced you during missions, or if you used your faith, or what did you bring? What aspects of your faith would influence you, or did you employ while in the service?
Yeah, it was when I was younger. It was always there in my background. As I got a little bit older, I drew on it more. The thing about sitting in pulling nuclear alert, you knew what the consequences could be. The consequences could be to millions of people, hundreds of millions of people, should all of that have gone poorly, and we had to execute that mission. A lot of people would have been killed. A lot of innocent people would have been killed. And then in Desert Storm and the other missions that I were on, faith was important to me. And what was important about it to me was the concept of the just war. One, my faith kept me optimistic that I could get things done. Things would work out eventually positively. If they didn't work out, and on any given day on a flying mission, you could have a problem and get yourself hurt or get yourself killed. I think I was comforted by my faith that there was something better for me. As I got older and maybe closer to my faith, that was more important and more obvious, more understandable to me than when I was younger. But it played a big role. And those missions where you're out to drop bombs on people, and you're going to be killing people or hurting people, some maybe not be combatants, understanding the Christian concept of just war, which I'd learned, in the military schools as well, but had been fed to through Christianity and my faith as a Christian, helped me to be more committed to it, and not that something that I should be embarrassed to do or should be ashamed of. So my faith, I think, helped me in that respect. And it's grown over the years. You see friends hurt or killed, and it gets you through those kinds of things, and helps you aid and comfort the people that were going through that, had somebody killed or hurt, and had to go through that. So it was something that sustained me through the years, and it's gotten stronger through the years. Was there another part to that question?
How has it changed since your mission, since the service?
How has life changed?
Or that and your faith?
My faith? My faith hasn't. As I get older, I think just in general, I find it gets stronger. It becomes more important. A lot of that is not so much. In the civilian work that I do now, and you see a lot of death and destruction around the world, in the Middle East and other places, and my faith helps me to keep that in perspective. It's not very happy in a lot of places in the world. And I'm sorry, what was the other part of that, Augustine?
I think you answered them all.
Did I? Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for watching this video, and bye.